Christine, how much does it hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion.
Okay, this is crazy. Without Caitlin Clark on the court, the WNBA is spiraling into a massive financial slump, completely powerless to stop their empire from crumbling. It's clear they've learned nothing about protecting the one player who single-handedly dragged them out of obscurity. This is the shocking story of a league sabotaging itself, while its brightest stars sidelined, losing millions by the day through sheer stubbornness.
And the truth is the truth, and the data is there. And what we saw when Caitlin was out the last time, the 5 games that she missed earlier in the season, the WNBA's viewership dropped more than 50%. Not just the Fever, but the entire league.
Let's be real, facts are hard to pin down in today's world of staged drama and social media outrage, especially when it comes to those so-called sold-out WNBA games without Caitlin Clark. But the brutal reality of the league's dependence on one player hit hard when Clark was sidelined on May 24th with a quad injury. Now she's out again with a groin issue. And honestly, no one knows when she'll return. What we're seeing is a painful replay of just a few weeks ago.
Injury jumped to her groin likely because of compensation. But the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so.
Let me spell it out. Nationally televised WNBA viewership collapsed by a staggering 55%, plunging from an average of 1.8 million when Clark played to just 847,000 without her. And it gets worse. Indiana Fever games themselves saw a brutal 53% drop. But here's where things go from bad to outright absurd. And by absurd, I mean dangerously disastrous for a league that refuses to own up to its epic failure.
Clark went down. The WNBA ratings have dropped over 55% across the board.
Hey, guess what, guys?
League is Caitlin Clark.
The league is Caitlin Clark. She is the WNBA, guys.
Sidelined with a left quad strain May 24th. National TV viewership has plunged since then 55%. Before the injury, the Fever, her team, were averaging 1.81 million viewers, almost 2 million. Since her injury, fewer than 850,000.
So while Caitlin Clark was out there doing what she does best, packing arenas, shattering TV ratings, and pulling in record-breaking revenue, the WNBA was busy doing what it does best, absolutely nothing to protect its most valuable asset. Somehow, it's considered fine to let opponents relentlessly target the player who drives a staggering 26.5% of the league's entire economy, all while hiding behind the excuse of just basketball plays. What's truly infuriating is that this isn't new. The exact same scenario has unfolded before, and yet the league never learns. The WNBA has already watched revenue and viewership nosedive after losing its top star to injury. It's like watching someone touch a hot stove, get burned, then reach for it again, as if they had no clue it was hot.
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting the WNBA. They don't want to give viewership to any other teams or any other players, whether they like other players on the team or not, because of how the media and the league itself has handled Caitlin Clark and how they have treated her family.
And hey, if this whole situation blows your mind like it does mine, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The financial collapse has been brutal, and immediate Fever ticket prices have plunged 71%, with some dropping from $860 to just $250 across Clark's missed games. The average ticket price crashed from $1,370 to only $80, a staggering collapse that says everything about who really drives demand in this league. Remember those games moved to bigger arenas just to handle the insane Clark frenzy? Now they're struggling to fill seats that would have been overflowing if she were there. Even one of the season's most hyped matchups, the Chicago Sky vs. Fever rematch, saw prices nosedive from $210 to $95. That same game once drew 2.25 million viewers, one of the biggest WNBA audiences ever. Without Clark, though, it's just another game, and casual fans simply aren't watching.
What's really concerning about this is the fact that we are only a month into the regular season, and Caitlin Clark has already been out with 2 injuries. With the first one being her having to miss some time with a left quad strain. Now, of course, this is concerning because if you're already on your second injury, you don't want to be that player that is always hurt. Cough, cough, Embiid, cough, cough, Anthony Davis. So I really do hope that the Fever really sits her out right now for a while, only because you don't want her to have more long-term injuries and be more prone.
One of the loudest critics of the WNBA's shameful treatment of its biggest star is veteran sports journalist Christine Brennan, whose upcoming book on Caitlin Clark and the revolution in women's sports promises to expose the league's failures in full. After yet another game where opponents blatantly targeted Clark, Brennan didn't hold back, saying the WNBA continues to fail to meet the moment. This is what people see when they watch in greater numbers than ever before, and her words cut deep by the league's own numbers. Clark accounts for more than half of its entire television audience, yet she's still left to endure cheap shots and hard fouls clearly meant to intimidate the very player keeping the league alive. It's like a restaurant owner letting customers harass the chef whose food is the only reason anyone comes through the door.
Man, bruh. Congratulations to the WNBA. Your ratings are going to drop by 55 to 60% once again. I believe the WNBA have successfully broken Caitlin Clark.
Honestly, the pattern has become painfully predictable. Opponents, more focused on sending a message than actually playing basketball, keep hammering Clark with constant fouls. Here's the kicker: 5 of the league's 30 most egregious fouls against her all happened in 2024, with the Chicago Sky responsible for a staggering 80% of them. If she pushes back, she's blasted as combative. If she stays quiet, she's labeled soft. The WNBA has built a no-win situation around its biggest star and refuses to address it. Meanwhile, the financial fallout is crushing more than just the Fever. The league was already on track to lose $50 million this year, but with Clark sidelined, those losses are exploding as TV ratings collapse, merch sales freeze, and attendance sinks right back to pre-Clark levels.
As big a deal as Tiger was in men's golf, Keith, he did, and when he was gone, it affected the ratings, but nothing like that. And, Michael Jordan being out, maybe a 5 percentage points or something. Nothing like this. You can make a strong case, and I will make that case, and have that there is no one single athlete more important to his or her sport or tour or whatever the circuit is that they play on than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA.
But here's the most tragic part of this entire mess: it was completely avoidable. When Clark first entered the league, she was a humble rookie, always praising teammates and deflecting attention from herself. At just 22, she handled constant criticism with remarkable maturity and grace. The WNBA had a golden chance to protect her, embrace her, and use her star power to elevate the entire game. Instead, petty politics and jealousy derailed what should have been a celebration of women's basketball, and the fallout goes far beyond tickets and TV ratings. Corporations that pledged millions are now questioning their investments as Clark-driven growth evaporates. This disaster exposes the WNBA's identity crisis, chasing stage drama for social media clicks while trying to be seen as a serious professional league. Newsflash: you can't have both. Real leagues protect their stars and guard the games. Integrity drama clubs stir chaos, hoping anyone will notice.
I don't even know where to begin, man. I hope Caitlin Clark is okay. I want to know when this injury even happened, bro, because let's be serious here. She has the quad injury. Mind you, Caitlin Clark hadn't missed a game since she was like 19 years old, since she was like 18 in college or something. Now she has a groin injury. We've never seen Caitlin Clark play as bad as she played the last 3 games. Let's just be serious here. She's like 1 for 20-something on threes in the last 3. We've never seen her shoot the ball this way. I'll say that. has she been hurt and playing through?
The contrast with other pro leagues is glaring and flat-out embarrassing. Imagine the NBA letting players take cheap shots at LeBron James for months, all while insisting it was just competitive play. That league would shut it down, instantly handing out suspensions before you could even say flagrant foul. But the WNBA, they seem content to let this damaging trend drag on. As if any attention, even negative attention, is good attention, the toxic atmosphere created by their refusal to protect Clark is. Now, driving fans away. Supporters are openly saying they won't watch games without her because they no longer trust the officiating or the integrity of the competition. And when your own fanbase questions whether the sport is fair, you're facing a credibility crisis that goes way beyond ticket sales and TV ratings.
I admire about Caitlin. She's a warrior. She's tough. You hear me? Bruh, you just don't see players. You don't see female basketball players like her. I'm sorry. I done seen a lot of female basketball players, like I said.
The WNBA has had countless chances to change course, but its repeated failures only make this mess worse. Every incident involving Clark should have been a glaring red flag to establish clear rules for player safety and fair play. Instead, we keep hearing the same recycled excuses about basketball plays and letting the players play. The irony is brutal. Clark's injury, the very thing the league should have been working to prevent, has now become the clearest evidence of her true value to the business. A 55% drop in viewership isn't minor, it's catastrophic. Yet despite that overwhelming proof, there's little sign the WNBA has actually learned anything. Officials hide behind buzzwords like competitive balance and physical play, as if cheap shots are somehow essential to the sport. Meanwhile, they ignore blatantly dangerous falls against Clark while overreacting to routine plays involving her. The double standard couldn't be clearer.
Lena, I believe the physicality and all this hacking and fouling that goes on, she getting blindsided by Marina Mabry. I think all of this stuff is having a wear and tear and an impact. And all you guys are doing are hurting yourselves, because the numbers are going to drop and drop and drop. And trust me, when it's time for that collective bargaining agreement, they are going to point to this and say, well, how can we give you guys all this money? What happens if she gets hurt?
Look, there's no complicated solution. Here, the WNBA has to decide what kind of league it truly wants to be. If it wants recognition as a professional basketball organization, it needs to start acting like one. That means setting clear rules on player safety and enforcing them every single time. The game itself can't keep being overshadowed by manufactured controversies. Most importantly, the league must finally accept that its biggest stars, the ones who fill arenas and drive ratings, need protection from the targeting and cheap shots that serve no purpose beyond stirring social media drama. The crash in revenue, attendance, and viewership since Clark's absence is a brutal reminder of what the league was before she arrived and what it will quickly become again if nothing changes. Without her, average viewership this season sits at just 555,000, even worse than last year's 670,000. Those aren't just numbers. They're proof of a full-blown return to the pre-Clark era of empty arenas and meaningless games watched only by diehards.
Day because of the way they play the game, because I love the WNBA. I love the way they play the game. But we really watching because Caitlin Clark and everybody watching. Now listen, if I keep bumping her, knocking her down, might get her a concussion, you might hurt her for real. For 2 weeks, she was done with like a hamstring. She was down. 55% of the viewership was down. She comes back the next game, it's about 3 million viewers. Now let me tell you something. Growing up in the hood, they teach you this. Always protect the money. Y'all keep hurting her and all that. She's going for a year or two. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. If nobody watches, how y'all gonna make and generate money?
And the worst part of this entire mess is that it never had to be this way. The WNBA could have used Clark's massive popularity to build a strong foundation for long-term growth. If their star had been properly protected and promoted, they'd be thriving. Instead, they've built a flimsy house of cards that collapses the moment their biggest draw steps off the court. The league is stuck in a destructive cycle where the presence or absence of one player dictates whether anyone even cares to watch. Until they learn how to safeguard and truly elevate the stars who generate real interest, they'll keep repeating this boom and bust nightmare. So the big question remains, will the WNBA finally protect its most valuable asset or waste every chance Clark's fame has handed them? Based on what we've seen so far, it doesn't look like the league is suddenly getting any wiser.